Being very entitled and controlling, narcissists have no difficulty stepping all over your personal boundaries. So that's why I put together an extensive video class called This Is Me. It has 25 videos, written documents, guided questions. I'm going to teach you how to have healthy boundaries. There's a link below, and I hope you'll find it to be quite therapeutic. I'm going to step into a difficult topic with you here today as I speak with you about narcissistic abuse. And please know that if you have been on the receiving end of abuse from that highly controlling and domineering kind of individual, my heart goes out to you. And I hope that we can put some ideas and thoughts to this so that you can have a much deeper understanding of what we're dealing with when we talk about abuse, so that you can move on to a much more well-deserved way and manner of life. Now, when we hear that word abuse, we often associate it with just the really exaggerated and loud and obnoxious kind of behavior, the overt rages and the very hateful comments and physical violence and overt mistreatment toward individuals. And certainly that's what abuse is about. But as we define abuse, we can say that abuse is meant to bring intentional harm or injury or offense to another individual. And sometimes it's not always in that loud and abrasive kind of way. Sometimes narcissists can be abusive in what I would refer to as small doses. And by that I mean you can take one episode that doesn't really go very well with a narcissist, and looking at it in its own separate and distinct kind of way, we would say, well, that doesn't seem to rise to the level of abuse. But with narcissists, their need for control and their attitude of superiority is so strong that they can be very consistent in continuing these smaller dose kinds of behaviors, to the extent that the cumulative effect of it all takes its toll on you, and you wind up becoming a shell of a person. That's the injury and that's the offense that they're trying to give to you. And make no mistake, this is a choice that they make toward you. I've heard some individuals say something like, well, I don't know. I know that this person has some anger issues, but I never thought of it as abuse. Or they may say something like, well, I was just told that my interpretation or my way of examining things just isn't right, or it didn't seem abusive at the time because we also had some pleasant moments. And so people can sometimes minimize some of these episodic abusive kinds of habits. But like I say, when there's a cumulative effect, then eventually it does indeed rise to the definition of abuse. Now, I want to see if I can give you 10 of the most common behaviors that we see with narcissists who are into an abusive kind of style, but just not of that completely loud version. Now, the first thing I'm going to mention, number one, is narcissists can be repeatedly willing to argue about innocuous topics. How many times have you spoken with that person about something that just didn't really seem to amount to much, and they turn it into an argument, and you're thinking, all I was talking about was, Jimmy's friend over here, or I was talking about something that happened to work, and it turned into an argument. How did that come up? And when people do this over and over, something's very wrong. There's very much a diminishing attitude toward you. Number two, narcissists can give you what we might refer to as shut down communication. Kind of like number one, where they argue a lot. Many times narcissists will let you know as you're trying to talk, you don't know what you're talking about. They won't let you complete a sentence. They'll interrupt and they'll explain to you why your ideas are not wrong, and you just need to go along with them. That leads to a third indicator of this more small dose type of abuse, and that is they can repeatedly invalidate you. That's not true. You don't know what you're talking about. Where'd you come up with that idea? If you said this to someone else, they would just laugh you off the stage, things like that. Invalidation is a very common way that they will do this toward you. Now, a fourth evidence of their small doses of abuse is dishonest denials. And when I say dishonest denials, what I mean is you may talk with them about something that you're not very pleased with, and they may say something like that it didn't happen that way, or that doesn't really involve you, or you got the wrong person, or they just simply can't say, I was wrong, I blew it. They're constantly in a state of denial, and of course that's its own form of gaslighting. They want you to stay in a confused mode. And over there in their way of thinking, it's like, yeah, this keeps me in control over you, you idiot. That's how they think. Now, a fifth way that they can show abuse is they can do what we refer to as victim blaming. And by that, I mean they can actually set up all sorts of difficulties and tensions and conflicts, and then they turn around and blame you, who's on the receiving end of that, for creating the problem in the first place. Or if you say, I don't like this, they'll say something like, yeah, you don't like anything, do you? And as a result, they start the agitation, and when you predictably feel annoyed or frustrated or anxious, then it's like, yep, right there, you're the problem. That's abuse. Now, a sixth way that they can do this abuse is it's what I refer to as motivation by ridicule, motivation by shame, or guilt induction. Something to the effect of, I hope you realize how stupid you're sounding. You're not going to go out and say something like this, are you? Or you should be ashamed of how you handled this, or that was clearly wrong, or you don't want your mother to know about this, do you? And so they can have all sorts of ways to make you fit the mold as they determine with all of this guilt induction and condescension. A seventh way that they can perpetuate abuse is, I refer to it as one-upping your confrontation. Let's suppose that you sit down with that person and you say, there's something going on here that doesn't work for me, and here's what it is. And then the response that the narcissist can give you is, oh, so you want to talk about things that don't work? Well, how about the time when you did this? Or if you think that I handled this wrong, last week you did that. It was way worse than what you're talking about. And as a result, there's a one-upmanship, and it's like, why bother? They just turned the discussion into a competition, and I'm always going to be the designated loser there. And an eighth way that they can show abuse is by being overly possessive toward you. And this can take on many different forms. Sometimes narcissists can be highly jealous, and they want to control who you're around and the kind of people that are going to enter into your world. They may be the kind of person that tells you what to wear or what you're supposed to do. They may control money. They may control time, but there's a possessiveness there. It's like, you need to filter so much of the decisions you make through me, and I'll let you know if it's okay or not, or if it meets my approval. A ninth way that they can indicate abuse is there's a consistent lack of responsibility on the part of these individuals. Many times they have all these duties and obligations that they have of you, but they're not going to be as responsible and reliable in reverse toward you. I'll go my own way, or they don't want to have any kind of accountability. They're consistently inconsistent. They can keep secrets. That's what I mean when I say there's a consistent lack of responsibility for their flaws or improprieties. And then a 10th way that you can be on the receiving end of their abuse is through the classic silent treatment. Basically, they can go into shutdown mode, which is their way of indicating, I don't want to have anything to do with you. They can be very elusive. They can be very closed, and you're not going to get any kind of good revelations from them. These are 10 ways that if we take it episode by episode, we can say, one thing doesn't rise to the level. But over time, the cumulative effect can be so strong that we're going to refer to it as brainwashing. These are individuals who want to diminish you, and they want to whittle away at your sense of reasoning. And I want you to notice the covert messages that tend to be associated with these 10 behaviors that I have listed. And by the way, there can be a whole lot more. For example, they may not actually say the words out loud. Sometimes they do, but covertly they're implying, to me, you're just a nobody, or you're a waste of my time, or I genuinely do not respect you. Or through their behaviors, they're covertly saying something like, you are so stupid. Or always remember, you are beneath me. Or covertly, they may be saying, I'm the one that's in control. You will never have the final word. You're supposed to conform to me. All of that, particularly when we have many, many episodes and lots of repetition, constitutes abuse. They're trying to deliberately harm you. They're trying to diminish you so that they can have dominance over you. By definition, narcissists do indeed want power. They seek to be the final word. And eventually, as they continue in this vein toward you, if you go against them too much, then you're going to see those loud and overt and obnoxious ways of abuse. It's only a matter of time. Now, we go back to that person that might say something like, well, I didn't know if it was abuse. They just had anger issues. Yes, they have anger issues. And yes, when it's repetitive, that becomes abuse. When you know that you're dealing with something like this, be willing to speak up with people who can assist you. You don't have to keep it secret. Also, if you know that there's that's an ongoing thing, it may be that you'll need to seek therapy, particularly if you feel like you've been way too bonded to that individual. We refer to it as trauma bonds, and then we can also call it complex trauma bonding, because the complexity is it just keeps happening over and over in so many different ways. And then in addition, if you've been on the receiving end of this kind of abuse, at some point you need to get away. You do not deserve this. You deserve dignity, respect, and civility. That's what we stand for on Team Healthy. My heart goes out to you, and I've heard so many stories of individuals who will say, oh yes, I received so many of these things that you're mentioning. Nobody is going to take care of you quite as well as you do. Practice self-care and determine, I'm going to be somebody that understands what abuse is, and I'm not going to allow myself to be subjected. Now, I hope that videos such as this can give you some good awareness of what you're dealing with. I truly appreciate you allowing me to be on your journey with you. I hope you find these videos to be helpful and even therapeutic. If you've not already hit that subscribe button, I would encourage you to do so. We're going to keep more videos coming toward you, and as you watch them on a cumulative basis, I hope that the learning curve gets steeper and steeper. Sometimes when you deal with things like this, and I just mentioned, you do have a need for therapy. And you know that I've been sponsored for years by the people at BetterHelp.com. I'm a therapist myself, and so obviously I'm going to encourage people to go in that direction because I believe in it. There's a link below that will take you to the BetterHelp website. It's online, it's accessible, it's affordable, and I've had good feedback from people who have made use of that. Please seek therapy if that's something that would be of benefit to you. In addition, I have my courses, my therapeutic courses. It's like signing up for an online class. They're very extensive. Each video has at least 25 videos with written documents and guided questions. And they are meant to, that's going to require a lot of work out of you. We have Ready, Set, Connect about making good connection skills. We have This Is Me about establishing those boundaries. Free to Be about finding yourself despite the controllers. We also have my webinars that have been produced. They're on my website, survivingnarcissism.tv, along with my podcast and books. There are plenty of resources for you to avail yourself to. Now, like I say, if you've been on the receiving end of abuse, my heart goes out to you. I hope you hear that. And no one's going to take better care of you than you're going to take care of you. So practice self-care. And in doing so, as you move away from that and you commit yourself to being the best version of yourself, I hope that you're able to find steadiness. And ultimately, I so hope that you will be able to find the peace that you so much deserve.